Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up, and I am super excited to share with you today some projects using the Come Sail Away suite. Now this suite is new in the brand new annual catalog. It's actually featured on the cover of the catalog. You'll see it right here. It's so nice to see masculine cards featured on the cover of a catalog. Often it's all about flowers and butterflies, and there are flowers, but it's nice to see some masculine cards, and this suite is absolutely fantastic. So let me just show you where you'll find it in the catalog. I'll get rid of my sticky note here. So the suite is found on page 145 in the catalog, and it features a whole bunch of awesome coordinating products. I almost said projects. So I'm going to give you a closer look at each of those, but I just wanted to show you, you can get the entire suite. It does have a bundle number. The entire suite, if you wanted the bundle, the embossing folder, the DSP, the Memories and More cards, the twine, and the trinkets, you can get the whole thing for $130.50 here in Canada, which is a pretty good deal given all of that product. But let me show you a little bit closer up the products in this suite. I'm just going to get the projects for today out of the way. So first of all, of course, we have our centerpiece of the suite, and that is the bundle. So we have the Sailing Home stamp set, which has beautiful maritime nautical imagery. We've got a couple of sailboats, a compass, an anchor, a beautiful lighthouse, and then some lovely sentiments that are in that sort of vintage sort of nautical font. Okay, and then of course we have coordinating dies. So there are some dies that cut out the stamped images. So for example, the lighthouse cuts out the lighthouse, and the sailboats and the anchor. But then we also have a couple of label dies. So we have this one, and this has stitch detail on it. So you get, we're actually going to use one of these today on one of the projects, so you get a better look at it. And then we have this little banner, again with stitch detail. And then we have some dies that cut out shapes. So this one cuts seaweed. This actually cuts a piece that looks like rope, and then a knot of rope. This is a ship's wheel, and then we have a couple of needles for the compass. So it's an awesome stamp set, and of course bundled with, awesome set of dies, and of course bundled with a stamp set, you can buy it at 10% discount. Okay, so that is the bundle. And then we have the embossing folder. Now this embossing folder, hi Debbie, how you doing? How's the weather down there? It is hot and humid here, not very nice. And raining, like off and on, like that's how humid it is. Yuck. Anywho, so this embossing folder, it's one of the new 3D folders. It's a little bit thicker than our traditional folders, and it is designed to cut or to emboss waves in your cardstock. Really, really cool folder. Perfect, obviously, for this suite. Then, of course, we have the DSP. And, of course, the DSP is my favorite part of any suite because I'm kind of addicted to the stuff. But this DSP is just extra yummy. So we have these beautiful nautical patterns. So the colors in this, we've got Balmy Blue and Night of Navy and Whisper White. So there's a lighthouse pattern, sailboats, a nice stripe, some rope, some compasses that's upside down. Let's turn it around so that north is facing north. And then we have some stripes. And then when we flip it over, we have more goodness. So here we have some vintage, I don't know, navigation instruments, I guess those are. And then some old nautical maps. This one looks like an old newspaper with all kinds of sailing articles in it. Some seaweed. Oh, hi, Debbie. I'm glad you love this. Okay, Debbie and Debbie watching. We have an old olive stripe and then another navy stripe. What I love about this paper is that every pattern has this sort of linen look texture to it, which just adds a whole other level to your projects. So that is the beautiful DSP. Oh, hot and humid in Virginia, is it, Debbie? Yeah, it's about the same here. Not so much fun. Okay. Then we also have some awesome baker's twine. So this is it's not super heavyweight, but it's also not as thin as some of the other twine we have carried. The colors of this is Sahara Sand and Night of Navy, and I like that it is not white and navy because it gives sort of a more vintage feel to it. It's nice and thick, so it gives you a nice substantial bow. You don't really need to double up your bows. It gives you some nice chunky bows. Okay, so there is your twine. And then of course we have these adorable little trinkets. So we have the anchor and the ship's wheel. We're going to use both of those on the projects today. Cool and wet in Edmonton, is it? Well, I don't really want the cool. I'm happy with the warmth. I'm happy with summer, but I could do without the humidity. It's not so much fun. I don't like humidity. All right, so we're going to get right to it. Oh, before I do, I almost forgot. I have some news for you. I am launching a new online class. So some of you may know that this Friday, my family and I are heading off for our very first Stampin' Up! Incentive trip. And we are sailing away to Greece. So I thought it was only fitting to offer an online class so you could sail away with me. So we are leaving Friday. We'll be back on the 14th. And I have some projects that are designed with a nautical theme. This online class, as with all of my online classes, is free with the $60 order. Okay, so there's no cost for the class. All you do is you place your $60 product order on my website using this host code. That's how I know that you want the online class. Okay, you place your order and then I send you all of the project kits and PDF cutting guide for if you want to make more of the projects, as well as a tutorial video. Okay, so let me show you the projects included in this class. So first we have just a simple, quick and easy sort of encouragement card. And then we have this one. I like this one. Could be like a graduation card or a retirement card. So 2. Here's another one. Also a congratulations card. And then we have a fun fold. Hi Claire, how are you? So this is a double Z fold card. All right, so it is designed so that it stands up. I don't know if you can see that, and it gives you a 3D effect. So the inside of this one, I've used that wave embossing folder. So we've got our sailboats in the water and then our lighthouse on the shore. That's our 4th project. And then the 5th project in this class is a sort of palette look photo holder. So I was imagining I was probably going to be taking a lot of water nautical photos while we're on our cruise. So I thought, what a great way to display one of those photos. And it's got a little hanger, so I could hang this on my fridge or wherever. I could also omit that and just put it on an easel if I wanted to. So it will hold a 4x6 photo, and you actually are going to construct the background. I'll show you how to do that. It's really straightforward, but you create this sort of distressed background, and it's a great way to display your photo. So that is project number 5. So these are the 5 projects included in this new online class. Let me just see if I can get them all on the camera here. I don't think I can get them all on at once. Maybe I can. There we go. Okay, so there are the 5 projects, and all of these are free with a $60 order. But then on top of that, because I am so appreciative of being able to go on this incentive trip, I'm throwing in a little extra freebie, and that is a 6x6 sampler of the Come Sail Away DSP. So this has one of each sheet, a 6x6 piece that is totally free. That is my gift to you for taking part in my online class. Okay, so you get all of this for free with a $60 order through my website. You have to place your order before or by July 16th. Okay, I'm going to close out the order at that point, and then cut and prep, and kits will go in the mail the following week. All right. Okay, let's get to some stamping today. So I've got 3 more nautical projects to share with you. These are the ones that we are going to make today. All of them feature the imagery from that beautiful Come Sail Away stamp set, as well as using the dies and the DSP. So we're going to start with this one right here. Really quick and straightforward card. I have here a piece of Whisper White cardstock. It is 4 by 5¼ inches. I have die cut an opening using the stitch nested label dies. Okay. And I've also embossed it using the subtle embossing folder. Okay. And that just adds more of that linen texture, which I just think works really well with this suite. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp my birds in Night of Navy. And the nice thing about the subtle embossing folder is you can stamp right over top of the embossing. It's so subtle that you can still get a decent image. Okay, so there are my birds. Now we're going to go ahead and add our DSP. So this is just a, what is this, 1 3/4 inch by 4 inch piece of the DSP. It's got those vintage navigation instruments on the back and the stripe on the front. And I'm going to just take and put a little bit of adhesive in each corner of my DSP. And then I'm going to go ahead and center the opening over the DSP. Now, I want to try and get my stripe straight. Okay, there's nothing worse than a stripe pattern that's crooked. Hi, Karen. How are you? All the way from Australia. Hi, Claire. Okay, so there is my background. Done and done. Super quick and easy. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue that onto my card base. So this is a thick Whisper White cardstock. It is cut to 4 1/4 by 11, and I've scored it in the middle at 5 1/2 inches. I'll fold it in half along my score line. And then a little bit of adhesive on the back of my embossed panel. Oh, my fast fuse is taking off the cardstock today. There we go. And we're going to pop that right onto our card base. And the nice thing about doing white on white is if you get it a little crooked, nobody's going to notice. All right, so there we are. Now we can go ahead and assemble the rest of the card. So I've stamped and die cut a few things on here, just in the interest of time. So firstly, I have stamped and die cut the lighthouse. So this is stamped in Night of Navy ink and die cut using the Come Sail Away dies, or Sailing Home dies, it's actually called. And then I'm going to take an aqua painter, and I'm just going to very, very lightly, I'm not squeezing out any water at all. I'm just kind of using the moisture that's in the brush here. And I'm going to just blur this a little bit. So I'm going to just run my aqua painter over that stamped image. And you see how that just sort of fills in the lighthouse and gives it a little bit of shadow effect? And that's all there is to it. It's just to add a little bit of interest to that. So I'm going to set that aside and let it dry for a minute. And then I'm going to take my little die cut piece of seaweed. So this is die cut from Balmy Blue cardstock. And I'm going to go ahead and just add a couple of glue dots to the back of my die cut seaweed. And I'm not going to worry too much about getting it glued right flat. I don't mind having it kind of loose here. It just adds a little bit of dimension to the card. Okay, next we're going to stamp our compass. So I'm going to take my Night of Navy ink, and I'm going to ink up the compass image and go ahead and stamp that on just my scrap piece of white cardstock. I'm going to leave that out because I'm going to need it for a minute, So now I'm taking my 1 1/2 inch circle punch. Okay. Hello, Julie. How are you? And I'm going to center the image. This fits quite nicely in that 1 1/2 inch circle. Okay. And just pop it out. And then that is going to get glued onto the front of my card. Now, I like to make sure I have my north facing north-ish. That's just my thing. Maybe it's because I live in Canada, the Great White North. I don't know. So we're going to go ahead and pop this on. I'm going to tuck it just behind the seaweed here. Right about there. Okay. Now this is dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and add some dimensionals to the back of my lighthouse. And just pop that onto the front of my card. Hey, Michelle, how are you? Are you all done packing? Michelle is leaving. When are you leaving? Thursday. Michelle's leaving a day sooner than I am to go to Greece. We are going to have so much fun on that boat. Okay, so next we need to stamp our sentiment. So this is one of those cute little banners. It's die cut from the Balmy Blue cardstock, and I love the stitching detail on this. And thanks for sharing, Julie. I appreciate it. And I'm going to ink up my thanks stamp. And again, I'm going to try and stamp this while looking at it from the side. Oh, that was bad. Really bad. All right, we'll try it on the back. See how that looks. It's very hard to do this. That's better when you're looking at it from the side. Okay, so then I added just a little hint of this rope trim. Now this piece is die cut from silver foil, okay? It cuts a piece that long, but I just want the ends, okay? I like the finished ends, so I'm going to take and put a little bit of fast fuse on the back of my banner. And I'm gonna stick this on one end, and where's my other finished end? This on the other end, trying to get it approximately the same length. Right about there, looks good. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and pop this onto the front of the card. Now, what I did is I actually put some mini dimensionals on the end that is on the actual card front, and then I put a glue dot on the end that is going to overlap the lighthouse. And that is just so that it lies flat where it overlaps, so it doesn't bump up. Okay. So we're going to put our thanks on here. Now this I want to center on this label, okay? So on the cutout. So I'm just going to kind of get that position so that it is centered and preferably straight. Okay, just like that. And then finally, we're going to take our little anchor here. And I'm going to close up my ink so I don't have a disaster there. And I'm going to show you what I did just to get that sort of knot effect on my anchor. So I'm going to take a bit of the twine, just trim, I don't know, this is what, maybe 6 inches. And I'm going to shove both ends through. Now this is not easy to get through, it's going to fray, but that's okay. You just want to kind of pull at it until you get it through, okay? So I have my loop, I fold it in half, there's my loop here. I'm going to take the loop and pull those ends through, just like that, okay? Then I'm going to take both ends and tie a knot with them. Okay, I want to slide the knot down as close to that, to the anchor as I can. All right, and then just trim off the ends. And then I like to fray the ends a bit too. It just adds a little bit more texture. And then this is just going to go on with a couple of glue dots. I put one on the bottom and one behind the knot. And that just pops onto my card like that. Done and done. Pretty easy, eh? Yeah, simple, simple. All right, 1 down, 2 to go. Let me just get some things out of the way here. I am going to need this again. I'm not going to need this. I'm not going to need those, and I'm not going to need this. All right, let's get these out of here. Set these aside. Card number 2 is this one. Now, this one, I totally changed up my color scheme. I went with Old Olive and Soft Suede instead of the navy. And that is, it's part of the DSP pack. So it's easy to settle on this color scheme. If you ever struggle with color combinations, check out your DSP. Use it as sort of your basis for your color palette. Stampin' Up! Has done all the design work for you. If they work in the DSP, they will work out on your card. All right, so here I have 2 different patterns from that DSP pack. I've got the stripe and then the sort of nautical map. This is what's on the other side if you're looking for them. Okay, that would be a really nice combination too. But we're gonna go with this one. And this piece is cut to 4 by 3 1/4 inches. And then I have a piece of soft suede cardstock that's cut to 4 1/8 by 3 3/8. So 4 1/8 by 3 3/8. And you're gonna see when I go to layer that on there, I have just a 1/16 of an inch border. So I'm gonna go ahead. This thing is almost empty. We'll see if this lasts me through this video. I made a whole lot of swaps yesterday and I used a whole lot of glue. So I'm running low on everything. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and center that on there. All right, and then I have the larger piece that is 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have a piece of soft suede cardstock that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Okay, and again, I'm going to get that same 1/16 of an inch border when I mat that on there. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Just like that. And again, Tombow is our friend when we are trying to center things, especially when you have a narrow border like that. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to, before I do anything else, I'm going to put my braided linen trim on. So this is just a piece, this is some scrap that I had lying around actually. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a glue dot on either end. Come here. Glue dots don't want to let go today. Now I'm trying to figure out which way this goes. There are little tiny letters on there, but I can't tell which. All right, let's go this way. It's very hard to tell what they are and which way is up. We're gonna say it's this way. Don't tell anybody if it's upside down, okay? All right, so we're gonna go straight across here. Okay, so I'm just adhering the ends of my trim to the back of my panel, and then I'm gonna go ahead and glue that onto my larger panel using a bit of fast fuse. Wow, we got super strength fast fuse today. It's peeling up my cardstock. I need to go slower, that's what the problem is. I'm rushing. I shouldn't rush. I feel like I've been rushing all weekend. I'm on vacation, summer vacation, woohoo! But I don't feel relaxed or rested because I'm rushing around trying to get ready for this trip. Okay, and I know you're all going, gee, that's rough. All right, let's get this centered on here. So I'm centering it top to bottom and then side to side, and I'm using the stripes to help me get this straight. Ooh, and I've got some very crooked trim. There we go. Okay, that's our foundation. Now we can go ahead and actually glue that onto our card base. So this card base is exactly the same as the previous one. So it's 4 1/4 by 11. It's thick whisper white cardstock, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. I'm gonna fold that in half. And then add a bit of fast fuse, not too fast, so we don't rip our cardstock. There we go. And we'll just pop that right onto there, just like that. There we go. Okay, so that's our card foundation. Now we're gonna do a little stamping. So here I have a stitched circle. This is cut with the stitched shapes framelits, and it is cut from Whisper White cardstock. So this is the largest circle in the set. And I'm going to take my sailboat image. This is the larger sailboat. I'm going to ink it up with some soft suede, and then I'm going to stamp it off once and then stamp it on my cardstock, just like that. Okay. Then, and I need to clean my compass stamp, or I'm going to have navy ink in my soft suede ink pad, which would not be a good scene. I'm going to ink it up again. So this is my compass. And again, I want to try and get north, going north-ish. And this time I'm going to stamp it full strength, and I'm going to do it off the edge just a little bit, like that. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to show you how we're actually going to step this card up a little bit. So on the original, this is just a die cut of that needle for the compass. It's die cut from soft suede cardstock, and it is fixed. Okay, it's just glued right on there. But we're going to step this up a little bit, and we're actually going to make it a spinny card. So here I have a compass needle that is cut from silver foil, and I have a silver brad. All right, so we are going to take, oh, where did I put I didn't bring my mat over with me. There we go. So I've got a Stampin' Pierce mat, and I have my take your pick tool. So I've got my pokey tool in there, and I'm going to go ahead and just poke a hole right in the middle of that compass. Okay, so can you see that? There's a hole in there. Get that out of the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and just lay my needle on my stamped image and poke my brad. Well, it might be easier to do it this way. We'll put the brad through the needle first and then through the hole. And we will open up the prongs on the brad. There we go. Interactive compass needle. Isn't that cool? You gotta love it. All right. So that now is ready to get glued onto the front of our card. Okay. So we're going to put that on actually with a few dimensionals. What happened, Michelle? I can't read the whole comment. You were dead, and now you're here, and now you're melting. I'm sorry you're melting. It's pretty hot here too, but I think we need to get used to melting because I think we're going to melt even more when we're overseas. It sounds like it's pretty darn hot over there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick this down, and I'm going to just do it a little bit off to the side. I don't want it perfectly centered. All right. Next, I have a lighthouse that, again, I've already pre-stamped and die cut. This is stamped in Old Olive ink, okay? And that is going to get glued on flat right onto the front here. Hi, Deb. How are you? Hope you're having a good day. Oh, you're a little bit late. That's okay. You will love this suite. This suite is fantastic, especially if you struggle with masculine cards. This is a great suite because all the hard work is done. It's just got awesome artwork. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little trick. So we're going to stamp our sentiment, and I want to show you a little big shot trick. So I got to get this stuff out of here and make some space. Too much stuff and not enough room to work. All right. So if you look at my sentiment here, it's stamped on a stitched rectangle. So I used the stitched rectangle dies. This is the die that comes in the stitched rectangle dies, and it cuts a piece that is that big. Now, do you see how much smaller that is? If I use this piece, my sentiment would not fit. Okay, so I actually was able to extend the length of this to make it long enough to fit my sentiment. So I'm going to show you how to do that. It's really easy. It's just some fancy cutting pad placement with your Big Shot. So here we go. We're going to bring in the big boy. And I'm going to show you how to do this. So I have just a scrap piece of white cardstock here. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and put my rectangle die right down on it. Okay, I'm using my magnetic platform so it stays put. Now, when I put my plate in, actually, I'm going to put my plate in this way. So I'm not completely covering the die. I'm only covering about half of it, or maybe 2/3. Okay, so can you see here that here's the edge of my plate and here's my die. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it through just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it back, and when I take the die off, you're going to see, do you see how that's only partially cut? So now I'm going to go ahead and extend this. So I'm just going to slide my die over, and you're going to feel the die kind of grip where it's already die cut. Okay, and then I'm going to put my die on, but this time I'm not going to cover this end of it. So I'm going to put it through again. Whoopsie, you moved. Don't move. This is hard to do when I'm doing it seated and sideways. Let's see if we can get this to work. Are you on there? There we go. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to slide this through. Oh, you don't want to work with me. You know what? We're going to flip this around. This will work better. All right, let's try that again. There we go. That's in. I think it's in. Yep. And then we're going to slide this through. This is easy, guys, really, honestly, when I'm not doing it on live video. Okay, now we're ready to go. We're going to feed this in and crank her through. And when I take this off, you're going to see that I have a die cut rectangle. Now, I didn't have this lined up very well, but you get the idea. If I were not on live video and seated while doing it, you would get an even die cut rectangle. Okay, so that is a way that you can extend the length of your die cuts, make them larger, just by fancy placement of your cutting plates. Okay, all right, so I already have one that I die cut earlier that is the right length. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp that using my soft suede ink. Hi, Shirley. You go golf. I will catch you later. All right, so we are going to go ahead and stamp "You Are My True North" on that die cut rectangle, just like that. And then that is going to get glued onto the front of my card. So it's going to go on kind of right across the bottom of my lighthouse, just like that. So again, where it overlaps the popped up circle, I'm just going to use a bit of Tombow. Here, I'm going to use a couple of dimensionals. Just maybe one dimensional and a little bit of Tombow here. We'll peel off our backing and pop it right down on there. It is a handy trick, Deb, and honestly it works way easier than it looked just now. But you can make your dies any length you want, okay? So you just do a partial cut one way and then a partial cut the other way, and it's pretty slick. Okay, so we are almost done. We're just going to add our little ship's wheel trinket here. Again, I'm just going to use a glue dot. Believe it or not, these glue dots will hold these things. These are pretty substantial weight-wise, but they hold no problem. And then this again is a pre-tied bow only because I had some kicking around in my ribbon scrap bin and I wanted to use it up. So I'm just going to take and pull apart the fibers of this braided linen trim just to make my bow a little bit more substantial. And I'm going to do the same thing with the tails of the bow. This is kind of a cool way to make this ribbon look a little bit more substantial and also give a little bit of a sort of worn vintage look. And we're going to just take and press that into a glue dot and pop it right on there like that. Okay, and there's my finished card. Really simple. Alrighty, okay, that's number 2. Moving on to number 3. Again, I got to get some stuff out of the way here. Make some room. Card number 3 is this one. So this one involves some distressing, and I love distressing. I'm going to show you a couple of little tricks for distressing DSP or cardstock or whatever to give it that sort of vintage worn look. So we're going to start with our DSP background, okay? So here, this is a pristine, beautiful piece. It's the same sheet that I used on the other card, but this time I'm using the sailboat side. And the first thing I'm going to do to distress my DSP is take my snips. I'm opening them up so that the blade is exposed. And I'm just going to take and run the blade along the edge of the DSP. Okay, and you're going to see that the edge kind of gets worn and frayed a little bit. Just be careful you don't cut yourself. These scissors are super sharp. If you have a pair of our paper snips, even just an accidental like rubbing it against your finger, you will get a cut because they are sharp. So I'm just going to take, sorry, my little scissor charm is kind of in the way here. All right, so there it is. It's just a little bit tattered and worn. Next, I'm going to take some Sahara Sand Sahara Sand ink and my sponge dauber. And I'm going to ink up my dauber, and then I'm going to come on and just do a little bit of sponging around the edges. And this is going to just kind of grunge and dirty it up a little bit. Again, I want this to look like it has been around for quite some time. Make it look old and worn. Again, anytime you're doing this, you want to come on from your grid paper so that you get a nice even inking and you don't have that big spots or splotch when you start. So we'll go all the way around like this. Okay, just even that out a little bit. You can do as much as you like. I just kind of did the edges on this. I still wanted the blue of the background to show through. Okay, then what I did is I actually took, with my paper kind of lying on my table, and I just sort of bent up the edges. So I'm just kind of folding them and rolling them a little bit. I want them to be a little bit worn and tattered. Okay, I'm not crumpling the whole thing. That's a whole other look. I just want the edges of this paper to look really distressed. Okay, so I'm just kind of taking my fingers and rolling the cardstock or the DSP underneath them. Okay, just like that. Isn't that a cool look? I really like that. Alrighty, next I have a card base cut from Sahara Sand cardstock. This is 5.5 by 8.5. It's scored in the middle at 4.25 inches. I'm going to fold that in half along my score line. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue my Distress DSP onto that. Okay, now when I glue this down, I'm not going to glue the edges because I want those edges to still kind of lift up and roll and look worn. Okay, if I glue these all down flat, I'm going to lose a lot of the texture and dimension that I've created. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this on, attempting to get it straight because again, I'm looking sideways. There we go. All right. Okay, next I have another piece of DSP. So this is some of that rope pattern. So this is the back side. It has that sort of newspaper kind of look, vintage newspaper look. And I'm going to take my my compass stamp again and some soft suede ink. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my compass. And I'm going again to attempt to get this relatively straight. Right about there. Okay. Easy peasy. Next up, we are going to go ahead and add our ribbon. So here I have two different types of ribbon. This is the Whisper White Flax ribbon. This was actually in the Occasions catalog and then carried over to the annual. And I really like the texture of this for a nautical look. So I've just run some fast fuse. You could use snail or glue dots. You just want something that's going to hold that in place right about there. Straight is preferable. And then I'm going to take some glue dots this time. This is some of the new denim ribbon. It is positively yummy. It is not stiff like denim. It's really, really soft ribbon. It's like polyester faux denim. Remember that stuff in the 70s that looked like denim but wasn't actual? Well, maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe you guys don't remember the 70s. I do. I had some outfits in this kind of fabric. So we're going to go ahead and stick that piece on just with some glue dots. I'm going to overlap the flax ribbon, okay, and just have my ends kind of hanging out there. All right. Next, I'm going to take that stitched rectangle. Did I mention I cut these with the stitch shapes dies? Oh, thanks, Karen. I'm glad you like them. So I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. I'm going to use the fast fuse because I want it to stick right down over top of that ribbon. Tombow is not the best thing for gluing things over top of ribbon. And we're going to attempt to get this on straight, just like that. Okay. Next, I have a label. This is a Whisper White label that is cut using the Sailing Home dies. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp my Set Sail in the Direction of Your Dreams onto that label. So we're going to stamp that in navy. Anchor up here. And again, I'm going to attempt to stamp this straight while being off to the side. Not bad. That was better than the last one. Okay, so now to add just a little extra something, I'm going to take that same compass image that I stamped earlier, and I'm going to ink it up with the soft suede, stamp it off once, and then stamp it just sort of off the edge of the label. And that adds just a nice little bit of texture. Alrighty. Okay. Now, before I glue that on, I'm going to show you what I did with the sailboat. So here is my sailboat image. I've already stamped and die cut it, but you're going to notice that this is the color of this is a little bit off white. Now, this is not stamped on Very Vanilla. It's actually white cardstock, but I'm going to show you what I did to age it just a little bit. So I'm going to take my Sahara Sand ink and my dauber. Oh, I'm glad you remember, Deb. That makes me feel good. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my dauber. And I'm going to just blot off the majority of the ink. And then this is just a different sponging technique. You don't often see me going side to side, but for this particular technique, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to start at the edge and I'm going to go across, back and forth on my cardstock. Okay, and you're going to see I'm getting that sort of streaky look. Oh, that was a little too much. Okay, and you can do as much or as little as you want. Okay, now I don't love that because that's a bit dark, so we're going to do it again down here. Okay, now this is a technique that takes a little bit of practice. I'm not pressing terribly hard. I'm just going back and forth. It will chew up your dauber a little bit because you're going off the edge and you're catching the edge of that cardstock. which will eventually wear out your dauber. Okay, but it gives you sort of a, I don't know, it looks like a linen texture on your cardstock. And then you're going to go ahead and stamp your sailboat. Okay, so I'm going to stamp it in the soft suede ink. Okay, just like that. And then I die cut it. All right, I'm not going to take the time to do that right now because I've already got one cut, but that is how I got that sort of distressed vintage look to my sailboat. Okay. All right. Now, the other thing that I did, because it felt kind of weird to have the water be yellow. So I wanted to have blue water. So I'm just going to take my Night of Navy dauber and a little bit of Night of Navy ink, and I'm just going to kind of just brush the bottom edge of that die cut, just where the water is, just to make it look like the boat is not sailing in, I don't know, yucky water. It's actually blue. Okay. Alrighty, so now we're ready to put this onto our card. So when I glued this down, I actually adhered my sailboat to the label and then put them both on with dimensionals. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a couple of glue dots to the back of my sailboat. And it's going to go right about there. Okay, and then we're going to throw some dimensionals on the back of this. Oh, I almost forgot to put my ship's wheel on. This is one of the die cuts. So this is one of the die cuts that does not coordinate with the stamp set. Okay, it just die cuts an image, and it does a little bit of embossing as well, which is kind of cool. And I'm just going to stick this on with a couple of rolled glue dots here just to pop it onto my card really quickly. There we go. And we'll pop that right on. Oh, about there. Now, back to this one. I got to put some dimensionals on here. We'll get some minis going. Put a couple of minis across the bottom of my boat and one at the top. And then we'll get rid of our backings. There we go. And then we're going to pop that onto the front of our card. Just about, I don't know. How's that? That looks good to me. Right about there. Okay, that's it. Super simple, right? Not a lot. The awesome thing about this suite is that the products coordinate so well. It makes it so easy to throw together projects. Like I've been designing, like I've probably done, I don't know, a dozen projects using this suite since I got it, and I still have ideas. It's fantastic. All right, so let me pull in all three projects again so you can see them all together. And I'm going to get rid of this yucky piece of grid paper so you can see them on a clean piece of grid paper. So we have 1, 2, and 3. And again, I'm just going to remind you before I go about my online class. So here is my new, just released, Come Sail Away online class. It's available from now until July 16th. The class is free with the $60 order through my website using this host code. Okay. And again, in the class, you get 5 projects. So 1, 2, 3, 4 fun fold card, and 5 photo display. And then you also, as a bonus, get a sampler of that beautiful DSP. Okay, so all of that is free with a $60 order using this host code between now and July 16th. Okay. All right, so there are our 3 projects from today. Next week, I will be somewhere in the Mediterranean on Tuesday at 5, but I will have a pre-recorded video that I will post on Tuesday at 5, so you don't miss me too much. And hopefully that will tide you over until I get back. I'll be back live again 2 weeks from today. But be sure to follow my Facebook page and stay on top of our Gersa's Go to Greece adventure. And I will post lots of photos. We're going to be getting the new holiday catalog and lots of fun. So make sure you follow along over the next week or so, and I will have lots to share with you. Okay? Thanks everybody for tuning in, and I will see you in a couple of weeks. Bye for now.